Hi folks, this is Asif Raza. In this video we are going to be looking at simply the interface that exists with Adobe Camera Raw and nothing more. We're not going to be looking into how we are going to be using the tools, but what the tools are about. So to begin with, one of the easiest ways and the most efficient ways to access Adobe Camera Raw without invoking Photoshop is to go to the image. For example, if I were to choose this image or any other image in here, what I need to do is the following. I'll simply click on an image and then I have multiple options. I can either right click on it and say open in Camera Raw, or if you don't have a right click button available, you can simply, this is particularly true for a Mac environment, you can press Control and then click your regular left button and then it will invoke the submenu and say open in Camera Raw. Or you can simply go to File once you have selected the image, so go to File and say open in Camera Raw, and notice there is a keyboard shortcut which is Command R on a Mac and Control R on a PC. So any one of the options will then activate the image file. So let's say I want to choose this file. I right click on it and I say open in Camera Raw. The benefit is that Photoshop will not be started, but just the raw application will be initiated. Now I have made some changes to the image, so I'm going to revert it back to its original state. So I'm going to reset the image and the very basic stuff. So notice all the sliders have gone back to where they were. The first thing to recognize is that it is always a good idea to work in a full screen mode so that you have maximized desktop space available to work on the image. So notice there's this little icon which implies that if you click on this, it'll toggle between a full screen mode, or you can use the keyboard shortcut which is an F, whether it is a Mac or a PC. So if I click on it, it covers up the entire screen, which makes life a lot easier to work with. To break it down very simply, there are 3 or 4 sections that you should be aware of. There's the left column, which on the top says film strip. Then you have the central space where you have the image and a bunch of tools at the top, and then on the right hand side you have all the tools to make the adjustments and corrections or whatever that you wish to. And then at the bottom you have this little icon along with the open, cancel, done and save image, plus the plus minus to magnify or reduce the image. There are details to it. If you had opened multiple images simultaneously, which I will show you exactly, so I've just opened one, I'm going to get out of here, cancel it, and go back. So I say I want to open this image, I wish to open this image, and perhaps I wish to open another image simultaneously. So I've got 3 images. You can open as many as you wish to. The more you open, the more the resources required. And I'll right click and say open in Camera Raw. So it's loading images, and notice now on the left hand side in the film strip it shows me 3 images, the 3 that I had chosen. So coming down to the panel on the right, you have little icons at the top which are primarily different tabs, and as you click on each one or keep the cursor on it, it tells you exactly what it is going to be doing. So the very first default one is the basic adjustments, which is about the profile, what white balance, color temperature adjustment, tint adjustment, whether you want to apply auto adjustments or you want to modify things. So if I click on default, it reverts back to its original state. So there's a bunch of stuff here, different tools. The next one is the curve tool, which is in 2 different variables. One is a point and the other is parametric. They both do the same thing, just the behavior is slightly different. The third icon is about sharpness and noise reduction, so how much detail you wish to extract or how much noise you wish to reduce or add, whatever you may want. Next to that is the hue, saturation, and luminance adjustment. So there are three different tabs. There's the hue tab, there's the saturation tab, and there's the luminance tab, which will allow you to control the hue of a color, the saturation of any particular color or colors, and the luminance of any color or colors. Next to that is the split toning. So if you were doing any split toning, this is where you would come in, and what changes you make, again determined by the sliders here. Next to that is the lens correction. This is important to recognize that one of the first things that you should, as a matter of habit, do is check these boxes. What the camera raw will do is search its database and find the appropriate lens that you might have utilized, and then bring it up here and it fixes things. If you don't, then you can always go into the drop down and look for the brand, and in each brand there'll be many variables, and you try and find what you can find for whatever lens that you may be using. You can always do manual adjustments as well. So there are many variables available here. Next to that is the FX, which is effects. This is about post-processing effects and how you wish to create whatever effect you may wish to do. Then next to that is the different versions. So don't forget, there's a whole lot of people who might have been using Adobe Camera Raw for a very long time, and they may wish to revisit some of the images that they may have processed, let's say 5-6 years ago, and now the versions have improved. So this is where you could refer back to version 2, version 3, and each one will behave very differently. And again, you have additional controls over here. Next to that is presets. So Photoshop does give you a bunch of presets. There's color, what kind of feel you want, there's creative stuff, there's black and white stuff. You scroll over, it shows you a preview of whatever the feel may be. The best part about this is that you can also, once you've made changes to an image, you can save that as a user preset. So I could come in here or here or here, and these are different presets, and it gives me an immediate preview of how the preset may look. And then here is a very interesting one, snapshots. So what it's really doing is it's creating a kind of a historical reference for you. So you could create multiple snapshots while you're working on a file. So let's say you've done 5-6 different things and you're not sure whether this is the right thing or not, but you don't want to lose it, so you could quickly create a snapshot, and that'll be saved here. It's like a history state, but collectively it's not detailed. It'll only take you back to that stage, and then 5 more steps later you modify things, and then you can create another snapshot. So now you have 2 variables that are available to you, and thus you have the ability to go back and forth to a certain degree. So the right column done. Coming back to the top little icons. The first one is obviously the zoom tool. You can zoom either by choosing the tool and clicking on the image, or you could go down to the bottom left of this center screen and simply click on the plus or the minus symbol, or you could go onto the drop down and choose a fixed value and say, hey, I want to see 100% zoom. Whatever you wish, it will do for you. So that's one. Then you have the hand, which is basically a scroll. So if, let's say, my image was this enlarged and I wish to scroll through the image, I'll simply take the hand tool and then move it back and forth by clicking and dragging the image. Although, to be a little more efficient, you don't really need to have the hand tool active at any point in time. Let's say I'm in the zoom tool. So there's the zoom tool active. Irrespective of what tool I'm using, if I press and keep the space bar pressed, whatever tool that I may be using, that becomes the scroll tool. Okay, so this is a good tool to be aware of as a shortcut. There's the little dropper. So if you keep your cursor on any one of these for just a moment, it'll tell you what it is for. The next one is a white balance tool. Next to it is the color sampler tool. This is slightly different to those who may be using Lightroom. Lightroom doesn't show you the color values in their numerical ways of 0 to 255. Lightroom shows that in a percentile value, and it doesn't allow you to leave any markers there for future reference. That's one difference. So it's about a choice, what you prefer or what you don't. This actually will allow you to click and leave reference numbers. So notice 1, 2, 3. So 1 is 49, 49, 48, 22, 20, 19, and 42, 33, 29. Next to that, targeted adjustment tool. So what is this? So here we have parametric curve, hue, saturation, luminance, which is very similar to what you saw over here. So you have the hue, saturation, luminance, and then the point and the parametric curve. Same thing, that will be accessed from here as well. Okay. Next up is the crop tool, and just like Photoshop or Lightroom, it also has presets. So there's normal, 1 to 1, and whatever, 9 to 16, and then you can create your custom or however you may want it to behave. The next one, which looks like a block with a little string on top, is a straighten tool. So it says double click to straighten the image. So if on occasions you had a horizon line or a vertical line, and if you double click the tool, it'll straighten the image by itself by analyzing the image and looking for the horizontals and the verticals. Next is the transform tool. On occasions you may wish to distort or modify the image as and how you may wish to on your own. So the moment I click on it, a bunch of options show up in the right column, and each one will do different things. Then next to that is a spot removal tool. This will again have two variables. As you choose it, an option changes over here in the right column, and here you have a drop down which says you want to use the heal tool or the clone tool. Next up is the red eye removal tool. So if the image had a red eye problem, you will simply come in here and simply choose that area and it'll fix the red eye. Then you have the adjustment brush. Now this is a very important brush. So the adjustment brush does some different things. So notice as I chose it, it looked at my last adjustment that I might have made on this particular image, which in any case I have reset the base changes to. So there's the size, the feather, the flow, the density, then there's the range mask, and that's about it. And then there's an auto mask option, toggle brush sensitive edge sensitivity, and it says M. So if you hit the M key, it becomes auto mask or not auto mask. You can change the brush size by either using the sliders, but that means that you have to constantly bring the brush back onto screen to see how big or small it is. A quick shortcut to reduce or increase the brush size is the use of the square bracket keys. The square bracket to the left will reduce the brush size. Square bracket to the right will increase the brush size. By the same token, if you keep the shift key pressed and then use the left bracket, then you're reducing the feathering. And if keeping the shift key pressed, you choose the right square bracket, that increases the feathering. Okay? So that's one behavior. Similarly, next to that is the graduated filter tool. What this does is, again, it allows you to create a graduated filter and then influences the area depending on what you're doing with this. I'll delete it for now. Similarly to the graduated linear graduate, there's the radial filter. As opposed to being straight down or at angles, this is circular. So this has a different behavior to it. Okay. Next, I'm missing this one for a moment. You have the rotate image to the left or rotate image to the right, and then you have the trash button. Now if you hit the trash button, it'll put a cross over here on the left, but will it delete the image from your database? No, it will not. It will only not process anything over here. This one that I had missed out is a preference for the raw processor. So if you click on it, it opens up a preference dialog box. And last, right at the bottom, it says 16-bit Adobe RGB, and then it shows me the pixels by pixels and the megapixels that it was shot with. If you click on it, it'll open up a workflow option. So you can have multiple workflows. This is something similar to Lightroom's export module, where you have presets. That what is available in Lightroom is a lot more efficient than what is available over here, but still it works in a similar manner. For example, currently it's set to 16-bit Adobe RGB, color space to Adobe RGB in 16 bits per channel. What if I was saving it for my web environment and I'm not going to be doing any post-processing in Photoshop? So I may say, okay, I'm going to save it as an sRGB. I don't want it as a 16-bit, but 8-bit, and I wish to resize it. So I'm going to resize it. So by what? By what? So you have options over here. So you want width and height, or let's say I just want the long side because I find it very convenient, and it'll do. So let's say I say 1920 pixels on the long side. I don't care about the short side, so notice it shows you 1920 by 1280, and my resolution I'm going to go to 72 ppi, and thus the image has been determined. Any sharpening, choice is yours. I would sharpen right here and here. I'm not going to sharpen in here. And now I can say, hey, let's save this as a new workflow and call it 1920 pixels sRGB, so that I'll remember what I'm doing. So now it's there. So in the future, if I hit OK over here, now it's 1920. So when I hit save image, it'll save the image as a 1920 by 1280. Or if I said open image, that's how it'll open it. Or I could simply go back and say, nope, let's open up 16-bit and hit OK. So now, so once I have processed all the images, I can, or let's say even one image, I could then select the one that I have processed, then shift select all the others, go into the flyout at the top and say sync settings. What this will do is it'll apply whatever changes that I had made to the first image, apply to the other images that may be in my preview column over here. And once you're done with the image, you can simply say save image. Hopefully this explains the very basics of what the interface is like. We shall be discussing individual controls and adjustments in separate videos in the future. Thank you very much.